On one side, a man will have a masculine aspect, and on the other, he will have a feminine aspect. But although he will have two sides to his nature, it doesn't mean that this is something that will stand out. He could generally come across as though he is only made up of the masculine aspect and doesn't possess a feminine aspect. If it was put forward to him that he has both sides, he could also say that this is not true, or words to that effect. So, regardless of if he does or doesn't have a strong muscular physique, he could be stoic, with it appearing as though very little phases him. Along with this, he could be very assertive and only too happy to share his views. If he does engage in self-reflection, the amount of time he does might pale in comparison to the amount of time he spends doing things. Thus, like a toy that has been wound up, he could often be on the go. This may mean that he has been able to attain a certain level of success in one or a number of areas of his life. If so, some men and women may see him as having made it. As a result of this, it can be normal for some men to provide him with a lot of positive feedback. If he has an online presence, this is something that could also take place online. When it comes to the women that he is attracted to, they could be very feminine, having more in common with little girls than grown women. Due to this, he could be more like their father than their equal. But there is a chance that he will see himself, and men in general, as being superior to women. He could believe that, as he is a rational human being, and not very emotional, it means that he is more evolved. What this will illustrate is that he will see the intellect or mental self as being above the emotional self. When he comes across a woman or a man who is overly emotional, he could believe that they lack self-control and are weak. Unlike him, they will be controlled by their emotions, as opposed to being the ones who are in control of them. With this in mind, it could be said that a big part of his life is about self-control, and not being led by his emotions, or anything or anyone else for that matter. At this point in time, he might just prefer to have casual encounters. By not being strongly connected to how he feels and a number of his needs as a consequence, he might only want sex from a woman. This can be seen as just about the only thing that a woman can offer him. If he is in a relationship, he is unlikely to have a deep connection with her, and she could then be more like an associate. As he is clear about how a man should behave, if he was to come across a man who is overly emotional, he could end up heavily criticizing him. He could say that he needs to get it together and stop acting like a woman. He would have lost touch with and be at war with his own sensitivity, so he won't be able to accept it when another man expresses this side of his being. Or, if he doesn't criticize him externally, he could do this inside his own mind. If a man is more or less estranged from the other side of his being, it could be an effect of what took place during his formative years. This could be a time when he was brought up in a very cold and loveless environment. His mother may have been very passive and fearful, and his father may have been very aggressive and violent. Ergo, his mother would have provided him with a very disempowering view of the feminine, and his father with a very destructive view of the masculine. His father may have often physically harmed him and been incredibly critical, deeply wounding him in the process. He would then have learned that it was too dangerous for him to show his other side, and that to survive, he had to hide this side of his nature. This would have taken place automatically, as opposed to it being something that he chose to do. along with this, the environment that he grew up in would have ended up defining his view of what the world was like. Behind his need to control how he feels and to be tough will be the scared boy that he once was. Dropping his guard and showing his softer side is going to be seen as a threat to his survival. But as his body is likely to be strongly armoured against his pain, it is unlikely that he would just be able to drop his guard anyway. He is likely to carry a lot of hurt behind his tough shell. With that said, if you are a man and you can relate to this, you can see that you have been, for as long as you can remember, out of touch with your other side. So your emotions, your feelings, your sensitivity, and you no longer want to live in this way, then, as I've said, it is going to take time, and this might be only too clear for you to gradually reintegrate this side of your being. You won't have chosen, as I've said, to be this way. This will have been a way for you to protect yourself. Becoming armoured and constricted will have been a way for you to survive an environment that was very brutal. And this would have also, as I've said as well, given you a very dysfunctional view of the masculine and the feminine. So to let go of this armouring and to become softer, you may need to reach out for external support so that you can gradually unfreeze yourself, or thaw out, as is often said. And through doing this, it will be easier for you to connect to your feelings, the pain, the hurt, the wounds that are inside you, and to gradually become more integrated. And of course, this is a process. It is not going to happen overnight, but the sooner you start, the sooner your life will change. And if you are very developed in the masculine side, then you won't have any trouble with the doing. But when it comes to this work, it is more about the being, more about surrendering to how you feel, and less about doing things. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.